Welcome back to Buried Cinema. I'm Brian.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Steve.
I'm Nate.
Nate horrified me.
Buried Cinema is a weekly podcast that likes to discuss new and buried films. This week we are talking about The Amazing Spider-Man and Darkman. The Amazing Spider-Man is directed by Mark Webb, starring Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, and Risa Fons.
I don't have anything against the guy.
The kicker from The Replacements. Woo!
He's done other stuff.
Yes, he
He did
has.
a like obsessive one.
He
Where
was
he's like obsessed with the guy in the balloon. Or
He
something.
did 5-year engagement.
Yeah, he's in 5
Yeah.
minutes.
No, I know, but he did a movie where it's basically Fatal Attraction, but instead it's like with him and a guy in a balloon, a hot air balloon.
That sounds creepy.
It's not sexual.
He was also in Human Nature.
Oh, that's right.
The
Yeah.
Wild Man in Human Nature.
Oh, that movie's awesome.
No, it's not.
Okay. So The Amazing Spider-Man is a retelling of the Spider-Man origin story. This time it's Peter trying to discover more about his parents, because that's something that's never been discussed before in a Spider-Man, I believe, comic, television series, or film.
Anything.
Well, I've never heard of it as even a issue.
An
like
issue,
they just
No,
died.
I mean,
they weren't actually part
no
of the
one really
story.
cares, but Mark Webb decided people care. So I'm going to turn to Kevin for opening review. What did you think?
I saw it this morning, and
And that's my review.
no, I enjoyed it. I really did.
Mhm.
I won't say it was great. It the best reboot I've ever seen, but it honestly, to me, by the time the movie was done, was better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I would agree.
There were times where it kind of lagged a little bit, where I thought they maybe spent a little too much effort digging into areas, whether it was his family or the girl or whatever.
There's some moments where it falls
But-
flat.
Yeah, but honestly,
Yeah, like
there was
the whole first half.
Well,
That's your opinion.
yeah, that's your opinion.
Kevin's
But honestly,
reviewing.
at the end,
I
though,
don't care.
I think they did a really good job of bringing it together at the end. There were a couple of corny things, a couple of lines here and there that weren't necessary. You kind of knew what people were thinking. But honestly, a really good movie. But even more than that, I think it was we were holding it to a higher standard because it's a reboot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I thought about it. I went back and I tried to think about the first one as much as I could.
Mhm.
I enjoyed this one more
Really?
than the first one. I did. Even though there were some holes in it. Even though there were some flat areas. I think I liked the Peter Parker character in this one better.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I did.
Mhm.
And I think he did a really good job at carrying the movie compared to the first one.
What I
Just
really
the first one.
enjoyed about this Peter Parker, the issue I have with the first one is he's such a nerd. He's such a weakling.
That's
Right.
Peter Parker, though.
I don't agree with that.
No,
No,
yeah.
and then this issue in this one he's kind of weak, but when he stands up for the kid who I think is kid who's
In the
getting
beginning
beat
of the
up.
movie?
Yeah, he's getting beat up.
Yeah, the bully's trying to make him eat something.
Flash is trying to beat him. Flash Thompson is
Yeah.
trying to make him eat something. There's this sense that there's this like strength inside him that he wants to have. He just
Right.
literally isn't strong enough.
Yeah.
I didn't get that from Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man. And the issue I have with Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man is he's a nerd, and then when he gets this power, all of a sudden, he actually gets like stronger and more attractive and things
Right.
like that. And something that I loved about this Spider-Man that I thought was really cool, he gets the snot beat out of him.
Yeah.
Like there are times when he's like bleeding, he's bruised, he's
he
cut
comes
up.
home and you could see the bruises
Yeah.
on him.
He one thing that I
Oh.
noticed and that I actually liked about this, I didn't like very much about this actually,
Mhm.
but there are a few things that I really enjoyed. he is not graceful at all. He's like flopping around all over the place when he's swinging. You just feel like at any moment he's going to smash into a wall.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have
He's
like
very
complete
vulnerable.
control, and even to when he's just
Especially when he first gets his powers and he's tearing his room apart.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was something I enjoyed more so than it was in the first
When
movie.
he scored like based on the mirror, and he's like, oh well.
In the first movie, Peter Parker had his powers and he was in 30 seconds okay and was able to do everything like he normally could. In this one, he tore his room apart. He destroyed the bathroom.
But I mean, even towards
every door handle.
even towards the end of the movie, he's still, when he's like swinging around and stuff, he still looks very clumsy. And I like that.
Yeah,
I think that's great.
It's also the sense that it gives a sense of tension because there are times when like he gets shot.
Yeah, that's part of the reason he's very clumsy is because he can't contort his body as well.
Even before he gets shot, just the way they do the web swinging, it's
cool.
like someone's actually swinging and not like flying. When Sam Raimi's or every other Spider-Man I've ever
It
seen,
seems very polished.
it's almost like he's flying with on these webs. Whereas
Especially when he's connecting
like someone's
his
like, holy crap, I don't know where I'm going next.
especially when he's connecting his web to something that's not even there. That was one thing that was good about this one is that they always showed you where the web
where it was going.
It was like, okay, here it is. It hits the helicopter. Here it is. It hits the crane for the construction building.
My problems with this, I think this was actually very well directed, and those are the choices that Mark Webb did an amazing job directing.
Well, he's the perfect director for this movie because of his
last name.
Yeah, that's exactly why he should be picked. Yeah.
Well, he has. I read an interview with Dennis Leary, and he basically said that Mark Webb shot this like he would shoot an indie movie, and shot and directed like he would direct an indie movie. So it had that very sort of clumsy, not clumsy, but you know what I mean, just sort of raw.
It wasn't as smooth. You could tell it wasn't the computer that was smoothing everything out. But the one thing though, at first I didn't mind, but then I thought they overused was the point of view.
The first person thing.
That was awful.
And that,
I liked it.
A little bit at first it was good, but then they used it 3 or 4 times, and I was like, okay, we got it. It was kind of cool.
Cut into it,
You liked it probably more because you saw it in 3D.
Yeah, it looks awesome in 3D.
Oh, and
it looks really well because that shot I'm pretty sure
Right.
that's just a 3D camera that they just moved through things, and so you could really when birds would fly out and things like that.
Yeah.
Or when he would shoot his web, I mean, it was smooth. It looked really cool in 3D.
That may be the case. In 2D, it did not work. It just felt like, so he's trying to make this a video game?
Yeah.
It just
That'd be an interesting thing would be to see if they cut those scenes out from 2D movies.
Yeah.
And just leave him out and do a side shot or something of him doing that. And then have it completely 2 different cuts, one for 3D and one for 2D.
So you mentioned the first half. You would kind of sarcastically, and I would agree. I think the first half is weaker than definitely the second half.
You don't get to see Spider-Man for
a long
50
time.
minutes.
Yeah,
but that's
it's
because it's an origin story.
They've got to
I don't care.
If they just jump right into it, though, honestly, I'd look back and go, well, wait a minute, you can't do that. If you're telling an origin story, you've got to build the character.
And it's a very different origin story.
But not that different, and that's my main problem with it.
That is my biggest issue.
It's very. I mean, you have Uncle Ben. They hit all the Spider-Man points,
right?
And I was like, why am I watching this again?
You have to hit all the Spider-Man points, though.
But no, they could have gone back earlier. I wish they wouldn't. They would have gone maybe up to the point of Uncle Ben's death and explored that, because otherwise it's pretty much the same movie. Well, it's not that different.
He's got enough motivation, and I also think that the death of Uncle Ben fell kind of flat for me. It didn't have the same emotional punch that it did in Sam Raimi's film.
Because you saw it already.
Yeah, right, and that's half the reason why.
And that I was disappointed when I saw that.
Something I think also, Martin Sheen and Sally Field, even though
they were great.
Sally Field does not look like Aunt May. She is a terrible choice for someone who looks like Aunt May.
Yeah.
But I think she's really she just did a really good job. Like both of them, his conversation with Martin Sheen when he's sitting on that porch and he walks up and he's like, "Well, I'm glad to see your phone is working." Like it's such a dad conversation.
I felt like I was in trouble.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't do anything, Martin Sheen. Yeah, like, that was really. And
sorry, Mr.
so
President.
there's enough of connection there and humanity.
Yeah.
But that I would have honestly, like you said, I would like to see him continue. Because it's all this idea of him trying to find out he's already experienced loss. His parents have died.
Yeah.
Right.
You know? So that's enough motivation in some way.
But
It also it harkens too much back to the Sam Raimi when you kill him.
True,
Yeah.
but I think I'm hoping one of the things that they can pull from this is because they still left a lot of gray area.
They do leave, yeah.
They left a lot for another movie. They
Yeah.
still leave a lot for him to develop
Mm-hmm.
because he was still, like you're saying, he was
Yeah.
still kind of clumsy. So he still has room to grow.
And there's Oscorp
Yeah.
Right.
over all of it.
Yeah.
But the things that were different, I felt like they were only different because of the proximity to the Sam Raimi movie. So like, well, we can't use Mary Jane because that movie's so we have to use Gwen Stacy, and that's the only reason they use Gwen Stacy. And so,
But
like,
then why didn't they do that for the entire film? Why didn't they? Because it seems inconsistent.
it just felt like
Yeah.
like we got to distance ourselves a little bit, so we'll change these few little things. And I loved Emma Stone. Actually, I have to say I loved everybody in this except for what's his name,
Andrew
Garfield.
Garfield. I thought he was great.
I thought he was he was like a
No.
hipster Spider-Man, and
He was
I
really
hated
good.
it.
I
The
liked
whole
him.
time I was like,
Yeah.
you are not Spider-Man. I didn't.
But you went in with that perception.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
you've got this.
Topher Grace
he's
should
not
be Spider-Man.
nerdy enough to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He was too, like you said, he was too hip to be Spider-Man. But I love the you could almost see the immaturity and
Mhm.
the along the same lines, just the lack of experience he had with talking to girls, with the confidence that he had.
The scene where they're in the hall.
That conversation
Yeah.
they had
Yeah.
though, where it's like we could do,
Yeah.
or we could
Or we
do
could do-
something else.
It's like, yeah, what about-
okay.
Yeah. And I actually think that's Mark Webb.
Yeah, I
That-
agree.
that
He's
felt like a
great
very-
at that.
Kind of like slight romantic comedy little scene.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the fact that Garfield, he's still new, he's still fresh. I enjoyed that.
The fact that he
And I
hates
think-
Mondays was getting annoying.
I think it was a good choice. I do. And the
I
supporting
love the scene in the
cast
car with
was
him.
great.
I thought he really captured Spider-Man, where he's like toying with the guy,
Oh.
trying to have a conversation.
See,
He keeps closing the door, and I was like, "What are you doing? No, what are you?" All right, the window. There you go. You're starting to learn. Yeah.
That
That's-
seemed a little
that's-
too.
But
like,
that's the
wisecracking
the
Spider-Man.
wisecracking
no, I realized
Spider-Man.
that,
Yeah.
but it didn't.
Which
I don't know. It
you
just didn't
don't
feel
have
right.
in the Sam Raimi one.
No.
Right.
You don't have in any of the Sam Raimi ones.
Yeah, none of them. He completely cuts all that, which was odd because Sam Raimi wisecracking should be
It's
right up
great.
his
That's
alley.
his. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
his
I
shtick.
can remember growing up watching the cartoons, and it sounded more like the one I saw today
Mhm.
Yeah.
than the one I watched almost 10 years ago. So,
And
I
that's
know
the thing.
you were
that's
concerned
that's
about
the
this,
thing
like-
too.
But I thought the lizard was actually done pretty cool, and that thing I enjoyed. There's 4 fights
Except-
with the lizard, which
Yeah.
was something like I remember from the first Sam Raimi. There's basically 2 fights
Okay.
with the Green Goblin, right?
If you
Between
can call them
Spider-Man.
fights,
Yeah,
if you can call them fights, because
Yeah.
the first one is he comes and he tries to kill the mayor,
Yeah,
and then Spider-Man
Flies
has to save Mary Jane,
yeah.
Right.
and then the second one is the only actual real fight with the
Yeah.
Green
Whereas
Goblin.
he's
yeah,
he's
all
fighting
out
with the
brawling.
lizard.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was kind
And he
of.
gets hurt.
And then there's a lot of action,
Yeah.
and he tears up a school, and then he tears up a sewer, tears up the bridge, and then he tears up Oscorp, and so there's this
Right.
there's this actual sense where to me that felt more like a comic book, like it's like an issue at a time. I'm actually seeing him, Spider-Man goes into the sewer, the lizard attacks the school, that like issue 15, like that
Right.
that I enjoyed. There was more.
My biggest complaint, still my biggest complaint, is the look of the lizard. I don't know why. I wanted him to have a snout. The fact that he had a flat face,
Yeah,
flat
that
human
bothered
face,
me
just
too, yeah.
really bothered me. It's bothered me since they first unveiled it. And I don't know why.
He does in the comics.
He does in the comics, he does in the cartoon.
Yeah.
It doesn't look as... they gave him lizard features with the mouth and the eyes and
Mhm.
everything else, but I just wanted that snout on there.
From,
And
from the scientific, I guess, somewhat point of view, like, why would he grow a snout if it's just combining...
Well, why did he
DNA?
Geez, why
did he grow his tail?
You grow a whole lizard. I mean, why not just also grow
Maybe
that?
it was more expensive to, like, make a snout. Because
it would have literally been more expensive to do that.
And
Yeah.
not only that, you'd lose malfunction. And he had a lot of
He had-
dialogue when he was in
had-
that
He would have.
character.
It would have lost.
It would have
emotion too.
Yeah. Yes.
Because it had a lot of.
That's how you talk.
It had human emotions in the face with the
Mhm.
mouth.
You
but-
could see also more of the cheekbone movement,
Mhm.
more of the
Yeah.
eye movement. It gives you a little more emotion to it. Yeah.
Mhm. But that
They could
did
have
bother
accomplished
me.
that.
The
That
one thing
bothered
though,
me.
while we're on it with the costume, I don't know if you guys picked it up. There was one point where Garfield's wrestling with him, and you could see that it's the only thing I can equate it to is a fat suit. It was a lizard suit, and just the way.
Really?
I didn't see that.
It was just a couple of seconds, and I think it was when they were in the high school when they were in that battle.
The whole mask thing
And
bothered me.
with his mask, with
Yeah.
the Spider-Man mask.
Where like at times it was just he pulled it on, but then it was obviously
Other times
one,
it was it looked like one
piece.
suit, one
Right.
suit. Yeah.
and like there was no. It was obvious that it
But
wasn't.
that's kind of like a small little movie flub.
Yeah, but it's so it was. I don't know. I was already.
I
distracted,
saw that a
so.
couple of times. I did see that, and then I remember thinking to myself, well, you know what? It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it really bothered me
So-
when like Dennis Leary as the cop when they capture him and he's
Yeah.
looking down on him and it clearly looks like it's one piece.
Right. It looks
And
and
you're
he
like,
just reaches
you're not gonna be able
behind-
to tear
yeah.
that off. I
Yeah.
don't care how strong you are, Dennis Leary.
Although Dennis Leary was great in this.
Dennis
Yeah.
Leary
He
was
was
really good.
really,
in
really
this.
good.
It was like the dad. What are you doing, sweetie?
I was
Yes.
actually glad
No,
that
don't wanna
they
come down.
Oh, that whole exchange was great.
I was glad that they left out J. Jonah Jameson
Yes. Yeah.
because that character got really tired in the first Spider-Man trilogy. I know because I watched Spider-Man 3 after I watched this one. I don't know. It was on television, so I watched it
Brian,
Why would you do
why
that
do you
to
hate
yourself?
yourself?
Yeah.
because
Everything okay at home?
I hadn't actually watched it from start to finish, so I decided I would do that.
Do you now realize why we hate it?
Yes. Well, I know why I hated it too, but now I know why I hate it even more.
Yeah.
Something I think actually the biggest problem with this movie is that it didn't separate itself from Sam Raimi's
Yeah.
enough. Like there were even moments when it felt like they were trying to like recall. Like there's a moment when Martin Sheen gives like a speech where he's like, it's not about choice, it's about responsibility.
They didn't want to give the great power, great responsibility speech. They just rehashed it.
And I was just like, just cut it.
Right.
Yeah.
It was done so well and so like it became such a major part of the Spider-Man 1 and 2 that if you say it, it just reminds us of it.
Yeah.
And I would have wished they just cut it.
My question being, did we need another Spider-Man remake this soon?
No.
No, we didn't. No.
Because, I mean, you had another Spider-Man remake, yes, that would, if had it been 10 years from now, that would have been okay. But this soon, that's probably most of your complaints are stemming from that issue.
Most of mine
being that Spider-Man 3 came out 5 years ago? 4 years ago?
4. I think it's 4.
2008,
2008, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because it just hit the benchmark. If they didn't make another movie, they would have lost it.
Yeah.
So, and then they would have lost it to Marvel, and there's Sony's money.
Yeah.
So I guess
I
would say I have 3 problems with this. I've already talked about 2 of them, which is Andrew Garfield is awful and should never be in another movie again.
What? No, you're just trying to make us angry, and it worked.
It's too soon, and the Lizard. I thought Reese Ifans was great.
I feel like you just got out of a breakup, and like Andrew Garfield like asked you out. You're like, no, it's too soon. No, I'm not doing it.
I'm not ready for that kind of commitment.
You are
yet.
too much of a hipster, Andrew. Yeah.
He's not my type.
He's a nice guy, dude. You should give him another chance.
No.
So the third point.
The third point is that the Lizard's character, like, I couldn't figure out, like, when he saves him at the end, that seemed really, like, why did he save him?
It was unnecessary.
Yeah, it just seemed like, why is he good? Is he bad? There are points in the movie where he's not the Lizard, and he's still evil.
right.
And there's points in the movie where he is the Lizard, or, you know what I mean? It's like, I couldn't figure out what his motivations were, or why he's evil,
But you heard
when he's evil.
There was. This was also a thing that's happened in the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans.
Yeah.
His villains were schizophrenic.
Right.
They heard voices. So he was listening to the Lizard personality talking to him.
That was an issue
He
I
had a
had.
conversation
Yeah, there was about a
with his
5-minute
alternate
scene
personality.
where
They
he's
didn't
going back.
explain
That
that
just
enough.
sounds
And
that just seems like a Sam Raimi.
And
Yeah.
that's where it's 2 different personalities, and the Lizard one, with the more and more dosage of this lizard DNA, is just taking over.
Right.
And that's why he's evil in human
So, but
form.
why at
It's
the
just
end is he all of a sudden able to...
because he got
He's getting
touched
the
by
cure.
blue snowflakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I got that feeling because I remember sitting there watching.
Yes,
I got that
the blue
snowflake
snowflakes.
feeling.
I forgot about that.
But they went through that whole 5-minute scene
Nate's going Sinatra on us.
where he's talking to himself, and you could tell he's going back and forth, and his personality's splitting or breaking, and then you kind of get that
doing
feeling.
a good William Dafoe impression.
Yeah.
Right. See, I'm thinking of Boondock Saints when he's going through
when
that
he's
Willem
going.
Dafoe. A totally different Willem Dafoe.
There's like 12 people living inside that man.
But then when that whole, I forget what the name of that device was that saturated the whole city.
Yeah.
With the blue snowflakes.
Blue snowflake-orama.
Yeah. And then when the lizard gets doused with this stuff, and then you could tell it kind of just it cleanses him of that lizard, and he gets back his own personality. And then, did you guys stay?
But he got
Yeah,
back.
I did.
Stinger. But he got his personality back way too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you also saw it in the cops, though, that had previously been infected. All of a sudden, they're going like, 30 seconds while it's done.
I thought I was kind of disappointed because I see the cops turn and I think, oh, they never showed us a trailer. I'm gonna see like 8 lizards and then
They're gonna be like
oh
slashing
man, yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a missed opportunity where they could have had a lizard army, basically, going about and
Smash
terrorizing
stuff.
downtown.
Yes!
That would have been amazing.
Oh.
Yeah, they could have just shown like a 10-second shot of just, a big looking down on downtown with just lizards everywhere.
Seeing them just ransacking
slaughtering
the city
people
and throwing
and-
cars
I've
and
been all for it.
people.
Okay, so
Rampaging. Yeah.
you'd like
instead of
child
doing
violence.
3D, they should have done that.
Yeah.
That would have saved, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That would have been basically an equivalent money exchange right there.
Probably about $10 million they could have saved, yeah.
Yeah.
I think this movie, the only reason this movie is as good as it is because of Mark Webb.
And I would say the supporting actors.
And
Dennis
Andrew
Leary,
Garfield.
Emma
Support-
Stone,
okay,
Martin
supporting.
Sheen, yeah. And I would say
I
Andrew
think Andrew
Garfield.
I think he did a great
did a really
job.
good job,
he
yeah.
does it.
I didn't have him trying to meet a certain criteria. I didn't put him up on a pedestal and expect him to fill these big shoes. It was just, all right, let's see what he does. I think he did a good job.
Okay, so we're now going to talk about Darkman, which is a movie about a hideously scarred and mentally unstable scientist that seeks revenge against the crooks that made him look like that. That is the word-for-word description on IMDb. Stars Liam Neeson, Frances McDormand, and no one else that matters.
Yeah, pretty much, for the most part.
Directed by Sam Rami. And we're going to turn to Nate for our opening review.
Cool. I was really, really pleased with this film.
Really?
Yeah. Surprisingly pleased. Yeah, it's an R-rated. First up, you gotta understand. I love Sam Raimi's like Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. Like I honestly think Evil Dead 2 is one of the best horror films ever made. I love his ability to just kind of do like insanity.
Yeah.
And I think it translated really well to this. And when I started reading up on this, it made me so much more fascinated. It's an original comic story. So he made up this superhero. And he based it on old, like, 1930s and 40s horror. So it's basically if, like, the Elephant Man was a superhero.
Yeah.
And, like, and then that's... The lab that he has is based off Dr. Frankenstein's lab.
There's
It's
a lot
got
of Frankenstein in there.
Yeah, and it's got a sense of, like, Phantom of the Opera as well. with the
Quasimodo.
cape. And there's so much, like, cool kind of mythology in it that yet it's still original. And what I love, it does some cool stuff with the superhero. Like it gives you this sense, at least to me, at the very end when he's holding him, he has the option to drop him, and the bad guy's monologuing about how you're not gonna drop me, you're the superhero, you're supposed to keep me alive, and he just goes nope, boom, and just like that changes a lot. I mean, it's very.
This is
90s
a very
cheese.
dark superhero. I mean,
Yes.
it's Darkman. This is a superhero that doesn't follow the superhero rules. He has no problem letting innocent people get hurt. He has no problem, like, just taking somebody out without even asking questions or anything. Or
It's
setting
gruesome
someone
how he
up.
takes some people out.
setting people up to
To get
die in
killed.
horrible ways.
When he has that one guy who's played by Ted Raimi, who's Sam Raimi's brother, and he's holding him up from the sewer,
Yeah.
and he's just like swinging him around, hoping that he'll get hit by a car.
Oh, so that's the reason that guy's in all of Sam Raimi's movies.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's his brother and his writing partner. Yeah. So it
Got a
was.
big cameo
So I
and all that
really enjoyed it. I think it kind of has some flaws In some
There's
ways,
some
but,
flaws.
but the
It's
flaws
cheesy.
are like, but the flaws are those '90s action flaws that I'm okay with,
Right.
because that's I'm in the moment.
There's
It
some
stays in this
really
universe.
Julie.
Yeah.
Julie.
The beginning trying to convince me this is an actual theory. How is it responding to the light? But why? Yeah.
Well, it's bad acting. It's not bad storyline.
Yes.
Although,
How dare you accuse of Liam Neeson of bad acting?
No,
I think this is
honestly,
actually pretty good.
I-
Everybody else.
I saw this like 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago, shortly after it came out, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you
yeah.
say, hey, we're watching Darkman, I'm like, cool.
I have
Yeah.
the comic.
I watched
went
it.
out and got the
I
comic.
watched it again, and I was like, oh. I was disappointed. I enjoyed it. There was a little bit of cheese. But honestly, I think what disappointed me most was Liam Neeson.
Really?
His acting ability at that point.
Ah.
I mean, it's 22 years ago now.
His teeth really disappointed me. They're pretty bad.
Over there, they don't care about teeth. Across the pond, doesn't matter. There's no dentists over there.
Why do we always pick on him for that, man?
Because
Horrible
Austin
teeth.
Powers did.
Did you see his teeth? They were pretty bad.
In the makeup, they were up.
No.
Oh,
His-
Oh,
his
yeah,
real
yeah,
teeth,
his real
not
teeth.
not
His
his
real
Darkman
teeth are pretty
teeth.
bad.
Whatever.
But no,
Really is
that
mean.
aside,
Poor
honestly,
guy.
I loved what's her face?
Frances
Frances
McDormand.
McDormand.
Frances
She was
McDormand.
great.
I think
Yeah.
she did a great job. And what was funny
She's such an
was I
underrated
remember
actress.
reading that she was having creative differences
With Sam Raimi,
Sam
they were
Raimi.
constantly fighting.
I know.
over
I'm
it,
like,
yeah.
you know what? She did a good job.
And yet she still sucked it up and did
Yeah.
and did her job.
Liam Neeson, I mean, I don't know how much into his career this movie was.
No, this is
But I
this
was
is actually
maybe-
his first
Starring role.
No,
right.
there was one more before it where he
So
did
it's
like
still
a
early.
romantic comedy, but it was
This
kind
is
of
it. This is the one where it's on his shoulders. Yeah.
Right. No, and the
He
20
was at
years
his
ago.
best when he was doing Madness,
yeah.
and some of the between him and Frances McDormand when he was doing romantic
Kissy
stuff.
face
yeah.
stuff.
Kissy face stuff. Yeah.
I tried to tell myself, okay, the caliber of acting back then wasn't what it is today.
Also, Sam Raimi
So-
doesn't somewhat comes out of it, and he kind of wants his people to do B movie kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
I really recognize
this
this is
totally
a
as a B movie.
this is
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is
Yeah.
definitely a Sam Raimi movie.
Yes,
You saw those
yeah.
like when his hands were burning. That's so Sam Raimi, the clay looking animation,
It's
claymation
disturbing
kind
yet
of thing.
comical.
Yeah,
Right.
it's kind of.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this a lot, but on a completely different. When I was a kid, I was 13 when I saw this. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I got action figures. I absolutely loved this. Watched it over and over. I don't know why I was watching an R-rated movie when I was 13, but that's the other
It's
thing. The
very
fact that this is an
violent.
R-rated
Comic
comic
book.
book movie.
And it was
I can't think of-
successful.
I can't think of any other
Yeah.
R-rated comic book movies.
I think it was made for. I was reading. It was made for 16 million,
which is like nothing.
which is nothing at this point, and it only made 47 million, which at that point was like a success.
Yeah.
So it
Triple your investment. that's a
tripled your
success.
budget. That's
Yeah.
that's really good. Nowadays you'd be like 46 million. Come on.
Yeah.
Films make
Uh,
that in a weekend. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed this a lot, partly because of the cheesiness. Like, did you guys like when Julie is chasing him and he's running away
With
and
the
then he
big
runs
bear.
across the bridge? He's like,
He's crying.
I busted out laughing.
I just love that he was running away with the pink elephant. He never once ditched the elephant. He was just running with this elephant like, I'm going to go to the best elephant ever.
Yeah.
There are a lot of something that was, I don't know if it was intended to be funny.
With Sam Raimi, it is.
It's hard to
I
tell.
don't think it was back then.
Have you watched this? I looked.
By
This was before Army of Darkness. This was his film. No,
I was gonna say
it was after Evil
It
Dead.
was before Army of
Evil
Darkness.
Dead,
Okay.
Darkman, and
Well,
Army
I
of
can say
Darkness.
in Army
He's
of
in his
Darkness,
crazy.
Though
Yeah.
there was something between the characters and the direction. He hit the comedy
Yeah.
there better than he did here.
Which
It's
is
like,
why I think this is probably his attempt at humor, and this is where he gets to get the kinks out. And
Right.
Yeah.
probably,
I
where,
can see that.
probably what helps Army of Darkness in its comedy was everything that he did and probably did wrong in this movie. He's recognized it and then just got rid of it.
Well, and he tones down the horror from Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Army of Darkness is a lot more palpable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Evil Dead 2, there's
palatable.
palatable, sure,
Okay.
palpable. palatable.
Okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Same thing. It's. I know it's not, but it's similar meanings.
You guys are English majors.
Yeah. Okay.
Come
I mean,
on.
there's a scene where a woman gets raped by a tree in Evil Dead 2, and it's
Yeah.
it's comical to an extent until you
Right.
start thinking about what's happening, and there's like blood all over the place. A scene where he cuts his girlfriend's head in half with a chainsaw
Right.
in Evil Dead 2, which is so funny.
Hilarious.
Shouldn't be laughing.
But you know, in like Army of Darkness and even this, it's kind of like he's all right. Calm down. Not everybody
Yeah.
thinks it's hilarious when you chop someone in half. You know.
You know what it felt like in this is that some studio executives said, "This is we want to make a serious, superhero movie," and he tried, but
Feels like
his
a revenge
personality
story. Oh yeah, it comes out.
kind of comes through, and he can't stop some of the silliness that he's really good at.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you guys said there are another 2 movies.
He had nothing to do with that.
Oh, okay.
Neither of them did.
Oh, the villain.
Everyone
Straight
walked.
to
yeah,
VHS.
the villain in the second one, like, apparently doesn't die when his helicopter explodes and comes back. Yeah.
Oh, you mean the guy who's a total ripoff of the Penguin for some reason?
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely gets the worst haircut in the world award. That is awful. Like his haircut is
Worse than Anton Chigurh?
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's not intentional. He looks like it's like what's his name from Jim Carrey's character from Dumb and Dumber. It's just like a pumpkin haircut. It's awful.
Oh.
I thought some of the bad guys in this were so 90s. Like when they're going around his lab and they're just like he's nowhere near.
Yeah, and
They're just shooting crap. There was so I
That
love
one
that
guy,
as nostalgia, yeah.
the one guy who for whatever reason just enjoys shooting his gun.
not just any gun, but like a leg gun. Yeah.
That was
Oh,
good. I like that.
Yeah,
that was
prosthetic
cool.
gun.
And the
Prosthetic
guy who's
shoulder
always
gun.
hopping,
But
when he doesn't
he had-
stop is just to walk around with a leg
The
gun.
one guy who was obsessed with shooting this leg machine gun always had some creepy smile on his
Yeah.
face.
Especially when
Because his
he
name was
came in as
Smiley.
the
I know they
double.
called him Smiley,
double?
but I mean,
Yeah.
When he came in as the double, it took that face and just magnified it and just like creepy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yeah, you didn't get that one. Sorry, try again, Liam.
Well, at that beginning, it was so weird because he pulled the leg gun off and just does the old thing where he just goes around and naturally kills everyone. I'm like, there's 12 guys in this room
Yeah.
and they all have guns. They're not waiting to shoot.
But
there's more than 12 guys in that.
Yeah.
There were 12 guys alone that brought them in,
Yeah.
then the other
and then,
50
yeah,
that pop
they're
up.
coming up on the catwalk.
But that reminded me of such 90s action where one guy with a machine gun can take down everybody just because he goes like this.
All right, if it's Rambo, that's fine. If it's a
villain, it usually doesn't
that's not
happen.
going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But that opening, like this is kind of changes the subject, but that opening, I mean, how I remember that, how shocking that was to open on a guy like clipping another guy's
was
fingers
cool.
off.
Yes.
And this is supposed to be, this is right after Batman, which is a pretty palatable superhero movie. There's nothing in there that's too offensive.
But this is rated R. That was
No, I know that,
Okay.
but this is very much. They're like, Batman was the one where we can make a serious superhero movie,
right.
and it
take
was
this subject-
palpable for the whole family.
No, it was palatable. And so I came into this, and it's like, holy
Freaking wine
shit!
drinker.
Could be both.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, that's true.
Palpable is how it tastes on the tongue. Palatable is how it tastes on the upper mouth.
palatable has
The
means it has
palate, you mean?
meat to it.
Yes!
Okay, good.
This isn't an English podcast.
I enjoyed that because that kind of led you to better understand how deep that villain would go.
Oh yeah.
And then when he opened up the cigar box and showed you the
Fingers.
20 some odd
Fingers.
fingers, that was super creepy.
Shows
But
you
I'm
his
like,
psychosis.
all right.
Yeah.
And every killer they need a
Dexter.
trinket or something
A crazy
from their conquest.
Part of
But
that's
it
from
was-
Hannibal Lecter.
It just showed you how like.
Well,
did that
actually,
come out?
it
It wasn't
probably
Hannibal
goes
Lecter.
No,
further
yeah.
back, yeah.
But no, that's any
Yeah.
type of serial
Hannibal Lecter
killer,
carries
psychopathic
something.
killer.
Eats them.
They keep something, maybe not a body part, or at least that's what a lot of the movies tend
Mm-hmm.
to think. Whether it's an article of clothing or a picture or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so it fit right into that. Although it was a little gross seeing all those fingers there.
Yeah, but I
Soda.
mean,
So-
this
Yeah.
this is I would say that this is the first superhero movie where like the hero is almost a villain.
Yeah,
Like, I can't think
I'd
of
agree with
any.
that.
I can't think of anybody who's tried to make a hero that's just not even. I wouldn't even call him an anti-hero. He is almost evil.
He's only out to kill.
Well,
Yeah,
but he's
and
only
he-
out for vengeance to the people that have wronged him.
Right.
He's not.
But he
killing
doesn't
for
care
killing's
who
sake.
gets hurt in the
Right,
process.
and that's true. I mean,
When he
he's
breaks the
got-
guy's fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
he's just. Oh, that
This
was
is awful.
Well, you could.
You could
That
tell it was
freaked me out, but
rubber.
you could tell it was
but-
rubber, and I was
but-
like, okay.
That's the thing. Sam Raimi does so good with those physical
Yeah,
effects,
yeah.
and he really shows you like
Although
what you can do with
that
them.
same that carnival guy,
He was
the
asking for
acting
it.
just in
Yeah.
the way he acted at that point,
You were behind
was
the
just like the
line,
rest of the
man.
movie. I mean, it was like, all right, come on.
A lot of the
It's
acting
like a
is
whole
so
bunch
awful.
of method acting,
Yes.
and it was just bad.
Yeah, the acting is pretty
So.
awful. Only pretty much, honestly, when you do get down to it, the only person who comes out unscathed is Frances McDormand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Liam Neeson at times is good, and at other times I'm like, you've
Liam-
done so much better. This
Liam
is not
Neeson,
Schindler's
when he-
List,
Since then,
buddy.
he's done so much better.
When
Yes.
he's not in the Darkman makeup, he's good. When he's in the Darkman makeup, he's
Except
really
at the
bad.
carnival.
Oh, I thought he was okay. Did you catch when he's like speaking
Right.
and he's like, and I'm like, wait, you don't have any lips. I was trying to do like I'm without.
He did that on
moving my
purpose.
lips.
Yeah.
I read up on it. He said he didn't want Darkman's lips to even move. I don't know why he thought
No,
that.
but he says I'm
Yeah.
without lips. Try that. Try to say
I'm.
I'm without lips. You can't do it.
No, it's just
Wait,
a
So
again?
how did he that completely? I was like, how did
That's
he
his
do that?
superpower.
Yeah.
No.
He actually-
Superpower
he
is
Makes
actually-
the M sound
Making
without
M
lips.
sounds without lips.
He worked at that. It said it took him a really long time to like work in that makeup, and like it said it was the hardest thing for him to try and talk with those teeth because he had to learn how to speak without moving the teeth, so without
Right.
moving his lips. So apparently he can make an M noise without moving his lips. Yeah. He might-
So we're gonna have the next 10 minutes of the podcast. It's going, I.
And we all sound like dogs who have been hurt.
Oh, man.
I was surprised how much I liked this. Yeah.
I'm glad you liked it because I was afraid you guys were gonna hate it,
Mm-hmm.
and
You
I
know what?
love it so much.
You know what? You think I didn't. I did not like.
Oh yeah, you didn't like it?
I didn't like this movie.
Really?
The only parts of this movie I enjoyed
I still count that as a win. 'cause
were the Darkman killing people scenes. Those are the only parts of the movie I enjoyed.
Those
the
are the best
rest
parts.
of it was just cliche villain, cliche. What is it? Female in distress, and then I guess you can call him a hero when he's attempting to rescue Julie.
Julie.
I just wanted you to say that again. When he's attempting to rescue her
Don't
from
look at me.
the guys when they kidnap her. But it's not, it just feels really cliche. Especially the guy who is a billionaire. He's like, I need you to get this memo for me because if it gets out, I could get in trouble. And then when they get it and you don't ever hear that he gets in trouble for them having it, it's like, oh, he's working for them. He's been working for them.
It
the
was
whole...
awful.
Yes.
Yeah.
But honestly, you can't say he was awful. Everybody
And the
was just
cranes.
mediocre. I mean, there was the acting overall. I just
That's
I
worse
didn't
than completely
enjoy.
awful, though.
It is.
Because completely awful is something
His
like The
assistant-
Room, where I can watch and I can just laugh my head off.
Yeah, Liam
Mediocre
Neeson's
is the worst thing
assistant
ever.
was awful.
Yeah.
That guy could not act.
Oh right.
He was really, really bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
And it was great.
That
I
might
actually
be
enjoyed
your
that.
affinity for
To-
hating minorities.
Long tongue.
When he died, though,
Just
and watching
Asians.
Liam Neeson try to express grief and sorrow and pain and all that, when his assistant died, that just did it for me.
It's
It's
not
because
He's
Liam Neeson doesn't
He's
express
done.
grief, sorrow, and pain.
No.
No, he kills people.
If
Yeah.
you steal his family,
That's
he goes
not
to prison.
true.
He killed your
Have it-
family.
Yeah.
The scene in Schindler's List at the
Yeah.
very end where he's like expressing grief about how
Why
he's
the
still.
pen? Why didn't I sell his pen?
Oh my
Yeah.
god, that
Right.
it
But he
that
didn't
makes me
have that
reevaluate.
ability.
I don't watch that movie because that makes me reevaluate my life every single
Yeah,
time.
I'm like,
I'm like,
what?
why do I own this cell phone? I'm such a jerk. And it's his acting that does that.
Yeah.
Right, and he's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still think he's a great actor.
Mhm.
he just didn't have it when he did this movie.
Mm-hmm. I would
feel.
agree. Yeah.
You could see it though. You could see like greatness in his acting because it's way beyond what anybody else is doing in this movie.
Aside from Frances McDormand.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's even better than her acting.
No.
Yeah.
I think
Because not because she's not a good actress, but because her role in this, she just doesn't have much to do. There's not much for her to do.
I'll say it's better than hers, but to say it's like much better, I think that's going too far.
I think he tried too hard to show the emotion. There's so many times where you can see that you can show emotion without getting angry.
Mm-hmm.
You can show emotion without yelling. Like Snow White and the Huntsman.
Charlize Theron.
Thank you. Charlize Theron.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, I think she could have done a much better job had she not yelled her emotion.
And we saw that in Prometheus.
Right.
When she would just stare and you would be like...
so much more affected by quiet tone. And this is kind of creepy, but if you ever read about Hitler, he was so much more effective when he wasn't yelling.
No, he was one of the greatest speakers of all time because he could convince anybody to do anything.
Right. And he's not yelling at you, he's not screaming at you, he's not over emoting what he's doing. He's just it's a subtle, I don't know, ability to pull back and just get people to watch.
Yeah.
That Liam Neeson didn't do in this movie.
So you're saying Charlize Theron is Hitler?
Sometimes, yes.
All right, so what we're watching next week, it looks like 2 vampire films. The first one is Thirst, which is a Korean film, which means Nate suggested it. And that's directed by Chan-wook Park. And the other is Stakeland, directed by Jim Mickle, starring Connor Paolo and Nick Demichi.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So both of these movies are vampire movies. I have not heard of them until today, so...
It's because they're buried.
It's because they're buried, I understand that.
Hopefully not.
But it was kind of like, oh, hey, we're doing them.
No, look at the IMDb rating on both of these. They're really high.
Very high, yeah.
They're kind of middle of the road, actually.
6.6, yep.
Well,
6.6 and 7.1
That's high. That's high for.
They're not bad.
No,
but
that's what I mean.
They're not high. So to come...
Fix that.
Looking forward to it, Steve.
Huh?
What? Looking forward to it.
I'm trying to decide whether I should pretend I haven't seen Thirst or if I should just say I saw it. Well, I already
You've
said
seen both of them, haven't you?
Yeah.
I haven't seen Stakeland.
Oh, okay. You have Stakeland, you said.
Yes. Thirst, Nate's been trying to get me to watch that for a long time. I think it's the last Korean movie I haven't seen because Nate hasn't made me watch it yet.
No, there's more.
No, I'm pretty sure I've seen them all.
I
And
haven't seen Dragon Wars.
I'm really excited to talk about Thirst. I think there's a lot there to talk about. And I probably won't watch it again before the next podcast. Not that doesn't like foreshadow my feelings towards it. It's just a very difficult.
I agree with that. I'm excited there's a lot to talk about in Thirst. Chan-wook Park is the guy who did the Vengeance trilogy as well.
Do I have to watch those before I watch this?
He does horror better than any horror director. Like, he actually does things that are horrific, but not because they're gory or, it's just,
just disturbing.
Psychologically horrific.
Yeah, and he does some really cool stuff with the vampire story. There's just so much to talk about in it. At Stakeland, I'm also excited for because it seems like some really cool pulp. But from what I've heard, it's got like a decent story to it as well.
Well,
I love vampires.
Stakeland was actually recommended to us by my father. So, and
I have to say, I'm disappointed it's not about steak. I heard that, I'm like, cool, I love steak.
A movie about steak.
No, but all right, fine. I haven't seen a good vampire movie in a while, so I'm somewhat excited. Judging from what you guys have said about Thirst, I'm going to make sure I'm in a safe place when I watch it. And we'll see. I'm sure I'll have very interesting things to discuss.
I'm going to be at home by myself for the next week, so what better to watch than vampire
horror movies? This is the rule on the podcast.
Tweets from Brian. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you.
I believe I sent him those.
So I don't know if we've mentioned this on the podcast. Brian,
I hate
you guys
horror
know,
movies.
He hates horror movies. We have watched more horror movies
Since he's joined
since
the
Brian's
podcast.
joined the podcast than before he was
We're
part of
just
the
trying to
podcast.
desensitize you to those things. Like, yeah, I'll watch that. Like, we're going to go watch Possession on Friday the 13th at midnight.
No, who's we?
We're actually going to transition to a horror podcast, and that's all we're going to watch.
See you guys
All
never.
horror.
You will never see me again. All right, so that's it for this week of Buried Cinema. I guess I don't know how to do this.
The news.
Send your buried movie suggestions to buriedcinema@gmail.com. And if you subscribe to us on Stitcher or iTunes, please leave us a review.
Check us on the web. We have a brand new website that we're building up, growing. Buriedcinema.com. Movie questions will be coming back with user accounts and lots of fun stuff, so pay attention to that.
And thanks for watching the whole podcast. If you don't have time for all 45 minutes, check out the minisodes, or you can just download the audio.
Okay, and we're also on Facebook, Twitter. I believe once this podcast is out, we'll have a new poll up. Correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
the new poll will be up on Facebook. Mm-hmm.
And we do polls from time to time, so please leave us comments there. Leave poll suggestions, poll answers.
Mm-hmm. The Rant Pad. Don't forget to check out the Rant Pad.
Yeah, we've all done articles. Brian's article on what was it?
The Horse Whisperer.
Oh, I kept wanting to say Godzilla. On the Horse Whisperer is absolutely amazing. You should definitely check it
Very
out.
funny.
Nate's article is okay.
Yeah.
So
I wrote a 15-page research paper.
next week, vampire movies.
Yes.
I like movies.